The breakthrough. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display, her coffee going cold beside her keyboard. The simulation results couldn't be right. She'd been studying quantum tunneling effects for 15 years, and nothing in her experience could explain what she was seeing. The particle wasn't just tunneling through space, it was tunneling through space-time itself. "Hey, Marcus, can you verify these readings?" She called out to her research partner, trying to keep her voice steady. The implications were too vast to process alone. Marcus Wheeler rolled his chair across the lab, his massive frame somehow graceful in the low gravity of lunar base Einstein. "What have you got, Sarah?" He squinted at the holographic display, then sat back with a low whistle. "That can't be right. Run it again." Sarah had already run it 17 times. Each iteration showed the same impossible result. Their modified quantum tunneling field was creating microscopic bridges through space-time itself. The effect lasted mere picoseconds, but it was stable and reproducible. "The Raychaudhuri equations," Marcus muttered, pulling up additional data streams. "This shouldn't be possible. The energy requirements alone." "That's just it," Sarah interrupted, highlighting a particular set of readings. "Look at the energy signature. It's orders of magnitude lower than any theoretical FTL model ever proposed. We're not forcing space to bend. We're letting it do what it naturally wants to do." The revelation hit them both simultaneously. Every species in the Galactic Council had approached faster than light travel as a brute force problem, trying to overpower the fundamental laws of physics. Humanity, in their desperate need to reach the stars with their limited resources, had stumbled upon something far more elegant. Within hours, the lab was crowded with the entire research team. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their quantum computing specialist, was already modeling larger-scale applications. Dr. James O'Neill, their resident skeptic, kept trying to find flaws in the data, and failing. The council said it couldn't be done. Dr. Tanaka said, shaking her head in wonder. "They said our physics was too primitive to even understand why it was impossible." Sarah remembered that day clearly. The patronizing smiles of the Scathar scientists, the pitying looks from the Meraxian delegation. Humanity had been admitted to the Galactic Council purely out of political courtesy, everyone knowing they'd be stuck in their own solar system for centuries to come. The team worked through the night, fueled by excitement and endless cups of coffee. By morning, they had a preliminary design for a full-scale drive. It was embarrassingly simple compared to the massive hyperdrives used by Council species, where other civilizations built city-sized engines to tear holes in space. Humanity would dance through the quantum fabric of reality itself. "We need to test this," Marcus said, looking at the prototype design. "Not here. Somewhere isolated." Sarah nodded. The Council had strict protocols about testing new drive technologies, but they also had protocols declaring FTL travel impossible without exotic matter and energy requirements beyond humanity's reach. "Kuiper Belt," she suggested. The next 3 months were a blur of secret preparations. Their small team grew carefully, each new member vetted personally by Sarah and Marcus. They converted an automated mining vessel into their test platform, installing the prototype drive under the guise of routine maintenance. The day of the test arrived with little fanfare. Sarah stood in the vessel's tiny control room with Marcus and Dr. Tanaka, watching the final system checks complete. The rest of the team monitored from a safe distance, ready to disavow all knowledge if something went catastrophically wrong. "Field generators stable," Marcus reported. "Quantum matrix aligned. We're ready, Sarah." She took a deep breath, looking at the distant stars through the viewport. Since childhood, she dreamed of reaching them. Now, humanity might finally have its chance. Initiate the sequence. The drive hummed to life, a soft vibration that grew into a gentle pulse. On their instruments, space-time itself began to dance, probability waves shifting and flowing around their ship. There was no violent tear in reality, no massive energy surge, just a subtle shift in what was possible. "Quantum tunnel forming," Dr. Tanaka announced, her voice tight with excitement. Field stability at 99.8%, better than any simulation. Sarah watched the readings climb, her heart pounding. This was the moment of truth. Either they'd prove the impossible, or engage the drive. For a fraction of a second, reality seemed to blur. Sarah felt a sensation like falling into sleep, a moment of disconnection from the physical world. Then, with no drama or fanfare, their ship was suddenly 3 light hours away from its starting position. The control room erupted in cheers. They'd done it. Humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel using less energy than a Council species food replicator. And they'd done it by working with the universe's laws rather than trying to overpower them. "Send the message," Sarah told Marcus, her voice thick with emotion. It was time to show the galaxy that humanity had earned its place among the stars. The simple encrypted transmission would reach Earth in minutes. Project Butterfly successful. The chrysalis is opening. As their ship prepared for the return journey, Sarah thought about the changes coming to human society. The Council would be furious, of course. Their carefully maintained technological hierarchies were about to be upended by the species they dismissed as primitive upstarts. But more importantly, the stars were finally within humanity's reach, not through brute force or vast expenditures of energy, but through understanding and working with the subtle quantum dance of space-time itself. Humanity had found its wings, and the galaxy would never be the same. First Contact Redux. High Counselor Zixtal of the Meraxian Confederation adjusted his ceremonial robes with 4 of his 6 hands while studying the daily reports. The massive chamber of the Galactic Council's Grand Hall hummed with the usual activities. Representatives from hundreds of species discussing trade agreements, border disputes, and technological exchanges. His attention drifted to the human section, conspicuously empty as usual. The primitive species rarely attended full council sessions, having little to contribute to galactic affairs. Their singular representative typically attended via quantum hologram, their crude propulsion systems making physical attendance impractical. A sudden commotion at the chamber's entrance drew his attention. The massive doors, carved from crystalline materials older than most civilizations, swung open. Ambassador Helena Rodriguez strode in, flanked by Dr. Sarah Chen and a small team of human scientists. In person. "Point of order," Zixtal called out automatically, his voice carrying across the chamber. The human delegation was not scheduled for physical attendance. Their vessel could not have. His voice trailed off as his neural implants fed him the impossible data. The humans had arrived less than an hour ago. From Earth. The chamber erupted in chaos. The Scathar delegation's chromatic scales shifted through patterns of disbelief and alarm. The typically stoic Arxer representatives actually stood from their gravity couches, sensory tendrils writhing in agitation. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Rodriguez began, her voice clear and confident. Humanity is pleased to announce a significant breakthrough in propulsion technology. We request the floor to present our findings. High Counselor Zixtal felt his primary heart skip a beat. The humans looked different. Gone was the subtle deference, the carefully masked sense of inferiority. They stood as equals. No, they stood as beings who knew they held something the Council desperately wanted. "The floor recognizes the human delegation," he managed, following protocol while his minds raced through the implications. "Though we note that testing of new propulsion systems without Council oversight is a violation of Statute 7249B. Dr. Chen stepped forward, and Zixtal recognized her from previous scientific conferences. She had been among those who'd most ardently argued against the Council's established theories of faster-than-light travel. He personally dismissed her ideas as the desperate theories of a primitive species. "With respect, High Counselor," she said, "Statute 7249B specifically governs technologies that utilize conventional hyperdrive principles. Our method operates on entirely different principles. Principles that, according to Council records, are impossible." The chamber's atmospheric processors struggled to keep up with the increased respiration of dozens of species. A HFY scientist rushed to confirm the human's arrival time, his scales shifting to patterns of increasing distress as the data proved accurate. "Impossible," declared first speaker Kex of the Orcs, their translator rendering their harmonic speech into council standard. "The energy requirements alone would exceed your species' total planetary output. We have studied your technological capabilities extensively." Ambassador Rodriguez smiled, a human expression that many species still found unsettling. "Perhaps it's time for a new assessment of those capabilities. Dr. Chen, would you care to explain the basics of our quantum bridge drive?" The next hour transformed galactic civilization forever. Using holographic displays and elegantly simple mathematics, Dr. Chen explained how humanity had accomplished what the Council's greatest minds had declared impossible. They hadn't tried to overpower physics, they had understood it more deeply. "The quantum tunneling effect is fundamental to the universe," she explained, displaying models that made senior council scientists shift uncomfortably in their seats. "We simply expanded it to a macroscopic scale while maintaining quantum coherence through our proprietary field manipulation techniques." The implications hit the Council like a supernova. Humanity hadn't just achieved faster than light travel, they'd done it without the massive infrastructure other species required. A human vessel the size of a small shuttle could now outperform the largest Council battlecruisers. "This is unprecedented," Zixtel finally declared, all four of his hearts pounding arrhythmically. "The Council will need time to verify these claims and assess the implications." "Of course," Ambassador Rodriguez agreed smoothly. "We anticipated this response. That's why we've arranged for a practical demonstration 3 cycles from now. We invite representatives from all Council species to observe our drive in operation." As the human delegation concluded their presentation, Zixtel watched the chamber dissolve into frantic discussions. The Scathar and Arxer delegations were already huddled together, no doubt plotting ways to acquire or replicate the human technology. The Meraxian economic ministers were furiously calculating the impact on existing trade routes and shipping monopolies. But it was the younger species, those who, like humanity, had been kept on the fringes of galactic society, who showed the most interesting reactions. In their eyes, Zixtel saw a dangerous light kindling. If humanity could achieve this, what other impossible achievements might be within reach? As the humans prepared to leave, Dr. Chen caught his eye and offered a small nod. In that gesture, Zixtel read volumes: acknowledgement, vindication, and perhaps a touch of challenge. The age of comfortable certainties was over. Humanity had not just caught up to the galactic community, they had leaped ahead in a way no one had thought possible. The galaxy would never be the same, and Zixtel had a sinking feeling that this was only the beginning of humanity's surprises. Mathematical impossibility. Dr. Vexna adjusted her gravitic supports as she floated in the zero-gravity chamber of the Council's Advanced Physics Institute. Around her, a 3-dimensional hologram displayed the mathematical proof that had defined faster-than-light travel for the past 3 millennia. The equations hung in the air like crystalline structures, each one representing a fundamental barrier that the humans had somehow circumvented. "Run the simulation again," she commanded, her scales shifting to patterns of deep concentration. The Institute's quantum computers hummed as they processed the latest data from the human demonstration. Behind her, a team of the galaxy's finest minds watched in silence. The results remained unchanged. According to every established principle of physics, the human quantum bridge drive could not work. Yet the evidence was undeniable. They had witnessed it with their own sensory organs. "Fascinating," rumbled Dr. Kvor, the Arxer theoretical physicist who had previously been Vexna's greatest rival. Now they worked together, united by their desperate need to understand. "They're not breaking the laws of physics, they're using them in ways we never considered." A junior researcher, fresh from the Meraxian Science Academy, raised a manipulator appendage. "But the energy requirements, we've calculated them thousands of times." the power needed to breach spacetime. That's just it, interrupted Dr. Elizabeth Foster, the human liaison assigned to the investigation team. You're still thinking about breaching spacetime. We're not breaching anything. We're dancing with it. The metaphor translator struggled with the concept, but the assembled scientists grasped the meaning. For millennia, the council races had approached faster than light travel as a problem of force, gathering enough energy to tear through the fabric of space. Humans had found a way to work with the quantum nature of reality itself. Show us the quantum coherence measurements again, Vexna requested, her professional detachment slipping as excitement colored her chromatic patterns. The hologram shifted, displaying the impossibly stable quantum fields the human drive generated. Dr. Foster manipulated the display with practiced ease. The key was understanding that spacetime itself exhibits quantum properties at all scales. We just needed the right framework to interact with them. In the observation gallery above, representatives from 24 species watched the proceedings with varying degrees of comprehension and concern. The political implications of humanity's breakthrough were sending shockwaves through galactic society. The Scathar Development Corporation has offered humanity exclusive trade rights to their entire Outer Rim territory in exchange for the drive technology, Cavor mentioned casually, his harmonic voice pitched low. They were rejected. Vexna's scales rippled with surprise. The entire Outer Rim. That's unprecedented. She studied the human scientist thoughtfully. Your species is either very confident or very foolish. Perhaps both, Elizabeth replied with that peculiar human expression, a smile. But we learned something important from our first contact with the Council. Knowledge shared grows. Knowledge hoarded stagnates. The implications of that statement sent murmurs through the assembled scientists. The humans weren't just planning to keep their discovery. They were planning to teach others. The entire structure of technological hierarchy within the Council could collapse. A sudden alert drew their attention. The latest simulation had finished processing, and the results were strange. The quantum fields generated by the human drive weren't just bridging space. They were manipulating probability itself. That's impossible, the junior researcher declared, then flinched as everyone turned to look at him. I mean, impossible is getting to be a rather meaningless word, Cavor rumbled, his massive form shifting with amusement. Perhaps we should focus on understanding rather than declaring what cannot be. Vexna studied the probability matrices, her specialized brain structures processing the multi-dimensional data. The humans hadn't just developed a new technology. They'd discovered a new way of looking at the universe itself. The quantum nature of reality wasn't just a phenomenon at microscopic scales. It was a fundamental property that could be harnessed. Dr. Foster, she said slowly, I believe we owe your species an apology. We assumed that because you approached physics differently, you must be wrong. We never considered that we might be the ones working from incomplete understanding. Elizabeth's smile widened. Apology accepted. Now, shall we discuss how quantum probability cascades can be used to maintain field coherence during spatial translation? For the next several hours, the brightest minds in the galaxy learned what it felt like to be students again. The humans had done more than achieve faster-than-light travel. They had opened up entirely new branches of physics. Each answer led to dozens of new questions, and the excitement in the chamber was palpable. In the observation gallery, the political observers watched with growing concern. The human approach to physics wasn't just different. It was elegant, efficient, and most worryingly, accessible to younger species. The carefully maintained technological gaps between council races were about to become meaningless. As the day's session concluded, Vexna found herself wondering what other impossible things humanity might achieve. They had already rewritten the laws of physics once. What other fundamental truths might they challenge? The galaxy was changing, and for the first time in her long career, Vexna felt like she was witnessing the birth of something entirely new in the cosmos. The age of certainty was over. The age of possibility had begun. The demonstration, The observation platform of Ganymede Station buzzed with anticipation as representatives from over 300 species gathered for humanity's public demonstration of the quantum bridge drive. The massive viewing dome offered a perfect view of Jupiter's swirling clouds and the test area marked by automated beacons stretching into space. Ambassador Rodriguez stood at the central podium, surrounded by holographic displays that would allow even the most distant observers to witness every detail. Dr. Sarah Chen and her team made final adjustments to their monitoring equipment, while Council security forces maintained a careful watch over the proceedings. Distinguished representatives, Rodriguez began, her voice carrying across the chamber. Today we demonstrate not just a new technology, but a new way of thinking about space travel. The vessel you're about to witness is the HSV Butterfly, our first purpose-built ship utilizing the quantum bridge drive. The Butterfly appeared from behind Ganymede's curve, its design causing immediate murmurs among the assembled delegates. Where Council ships were massive constructs of metal and energy fields, the human vessel was almost delicate in appearance. Its quantum field generators were visible as subtle crystalline structures along its hull, more like artistic embellishments than engines of FTL travel. The Butterfly has just translated to the Kuiper Belt, Rodriguez announced calmly. It will now return using the same method. Exactly 30 seconds later, the vessel reappeared precisely at its starting coordinates. The journey would have taken a Council ship weeks of careful navigation through established hyperspace lanes. The humans had done it in under a minute. The observation platform erupted in a cacophony of voices, translator systems struggling to keep up with the overlapping conversations. The implications were staggering. Every established trade route, every military strategy, every carefully maintained boundary in space had just become meaningless. As promised, Rodriguez continued once order was restored. We will be sharing this technology with all Council species. Our technical teams are prepared to begin training programs for qualified engineers and scientists immediately. An ARCSR representative raised their massive form. And what does humanity want in exchange for this generosity? Rodriguez smiled. We want what we've always wanted, to explore the stars, to learn, to grow. We believe this technology belongs to all sentient species. The universe is vast, and we'll all go further if we go together. Dr. Chen stepped forward. To demonstrate our commitment, we've prepared detailed technical documentation for all Council species. These materials explain not just how to build a quantum bridge drive, but the underlying principles that make it possible. We believe that understanding leads to innovation, and innovation leads to progress. The impact of this announcement rippled through the chamber. The humans weren't just sharing their technology. They were sharing their knowledge, their methodology, their way of thinking about the universe itself. As the formal demonstration concluded, conversations among the delegates turned from shock to speculation. Some discussed the economic implications, others the military applications, but a growing number, especially among the younger species, talked about possibilities. The Butterfly hung in space above Jupiter, its quantum field generators gleaming softly in the gas giant's reflected light. It represented more than just a new method of travel. It was proof that the impossible was simply the undiscovered, waiting for someone to look at it from a new perspective. The age of established hierarchies and carefully controlled progress was over. Humanity had not just changed how the galaxy traveled, they had changed how it thought about what was possible. New era. One standard galactic year after humanity's revelation of the quantum bridge drive, High Counselor Zixtal stood at the window of his private chambers, watching ships arrive for the Galactic Council's millennial session. The sight still took some getting used to. Where once massive Council vessels would lumber through carefully plotted hyperspace entry points, now ships of all sizes simply appeared, their quantum fields briefly visible as iridescent ripples in space. Most striking were the smaller vessels, personal craft and research ships that would have been confined to local space just a year ago. The final reports are ready for your review, High Counselor, his aide announced, transmitting the data directly to Zixtal's neural interface. The statistics told a story that no one could have predicted. Trade volume between Council species had increased by 300%. The number of registered independent explorers had grown exponentially. Most significantly, scientific breakthroughs in various fields had accelerated dramatically as species began adopting humanity's unique approach to problem-solving. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as humanities science advisor to the Council, had called it the quantum perspective, the idea that seemingly insurmountable barriers often contain their own solutions if viewed from the right angle. The concept had spread far beyond physics. The Scathar, their economy initially devastated by the obsolescence of traditional hyperdrive technology, had transformed themselves into leaders in quantum field applications. Their scientists, freed from the constraints of conventional thinking, had developed revolutionary new approaches to energy generation and matter manipulation. The Orcs, traditionally conservative in their scientific approach, had established joint research initiatives with dozens of younger species. Their massive computational networks, combined with fresh perspectives, were unlocking secrets of the universe that had eluded the Council for millennia. But perhaps most profound was the change in how species interacted with each other. The rigid hierarchies based on technological advancement had crumbled. A breakthrough could come from anywhere, and collaboration had replaced competition as the driving force of progress. High Counselor, his aide interrupted his thoughts. Ambassador Rodriguez has arrived with the human delegation. Zixtal adjusted his ceremonial robes and made his way to the council chamber. The massive hall had been modified over the past year, its ancient architecture now complemented by quantum field sensors that allowed instant translation between all known languages. Another innovation sparked by humanity's breakthrough. "Welcome, Ambassador," he greeted Rodriguez as she approached. "I trust your journey from Earth was comfortable." "Instantaneous," she replied with a smile. "Though I must admit, I sometimes missed the longer voyages." They gave one time to prepare. Their exchange was interrupted by a commotion at the chamber's entrance. A delegation from one of the youngest council species, the Nexar, was presenting their findings on quantum consciousness, a field that hadn't even existed a year ago. Their research suggested that sentient minds naturally interface with the quantum fabric of reality, explaining phenomena that had long been dismissed as impossible. "They remind me of us, not so long ago," Rodriguez commented, watching the young scientists, "eager to challenge everything we think we know." Zixtal's chromatic patterns shifted in agreement. "Your species has taught us that wisdom doesn't always come with age. Sometimes it comes from simply being willing to ask different questions." The session began with traditional formality, but the proceedings were anything but traditional. Reports from across the galaxy painted a picture of civilization in transformation. The quantum bridge drive had been just the beginning. Once species began looking at the universe through the lens of quantum possibility, new discoveries emerged almost daily. Medical breakthroughs using quantum field manipulation were extending lifespans across all species. Agricultural innovations were ending food scarcity on dozens of worlds. Even the mysterious dark matter that permeated the galaxy was beginning to yield its secrets to quantum analysis. And yet, Rodriguez noted during a recess, "We've barely scratched the surface. Every answer leads to new questions. Every discovery opens new frontiers." She was right, Zixtal realized. The galaxy hadn't just gained a new technology. It had gained a new way of thinking. The Council's role had shifted from maintaining order to fostering innovation. Species that had been stagnant for millennia were awakening to new possibilities. As the session concluded, Zixtal found himself in the garden complex, where representatives from hundreds of species mingled freely. The traditional barriers of technological achievement had been replaced by a shared sense of discovery. Young species brought fresh perspectives, while ancient civilizations contributed their vast experience and resources. A group of human and Scathar scientists were discussing theories about quantum connections between parallel universes. Nearby, Orcs philosophers debated the implications of quantum consciousness with Nexar researchers. The divisions between scientific disciplines were blurring, just as the divisions between species had blurred. The Butterfly, humanity's first quantum dry ship, had been preserved as a museum piece, but its legacy was visible in every ship that now danced through the quantum fields of space, in every breakthrough that reshaped understanding of the universe, and in every collaboration that bridged the gaps between species. Humanity hadn't just changed how the galaxy traveled, they had changed how it dreamed. The impossible had become simply the undiscovered, waiting for someone to look at it from a new angle. And in that space between what was known and what was possible, a new galactic civilization was emerging, guided not by hierarchy, but by shared curiosity about what mysteries still waited to be understood. As Zixtal watched a new ship quantum shift into view, its design a collaboration between 6 different species, he realized that this was perhaps humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Not the technology itself, but the reminder that the universe was still full of wonders, waiting for someone to ask the right questions.